my real exposure came then when I went to work at the governor's mansion as a guard. And if you will, just let me. Today, the guards are out in a booth that's outside. That wasn't the way it was in 1965. The guard sat at a little desk right in the front hallway, the front entranceway of the house, and you had a gun. It was in the drawer. I had never shot a pistol before. I learned how to shoot a pistol while I was a guard at the governor's mansion. But I always said that if there was ever a problem, that I was going to get behind the governor because he was a better shot than I was. But our job, the guys who were the student guards, there were two other people who were. One was a retired military guy, and the other one was just a retired guy that worked for the state capitol police. We all worked for the state capitol police. But our job was to interact with the three girls, and they were very active. They were all in high school or junior high school. They were very active in school. They were very active in 4-H. They were very active in after-school activities, and so the Bellmons didn't want them driving. Pat was the only one of the girls who could drive at that time. Gail learned to drive during that period. I still have scars to prove that she learned to drive while I was helping her, so we went to football games. We took them to football games. We took them. I took Ann to the orthodontist every week. I took Ann to ballet every week. I took Gail to a variety of different things. They were very active, as I said, in 4-H, and took them to those meetings. Took them to exhibits that they did for 4-H. So we were guards in the sense that that was the way we were employed, but we really were there to provide some help because the Bellmons were gone a lot. They were traveling across the state doing all sorts of meetings and things. They usually came back at night, but it'd be late at night, and if the girls had after-school activities, we were there to do that. So that was kind of the process. I got to tell you one funny story. Pat graduated, and her first year at OSU, she lived in one of the dorms, one of the high-rise dorms, the name of which I can't recall. And she had this sweet little girl who was her roommate who was from western Oklahoma. I can't remember the town. But the first time she decided to bring her roommate home to the governor's mansion, I went up to pick her up. And I took the governor's limousine. And I never wore, we had uniforms, but most of the time I dressed like this. I had a shirt on and slacks on, and because we didn't want to look, for the girls, the girls didn't like that. So I put my uniform on. It had this really creepy little hat, and I've got the pistol on my belt. And I go into the dorm, and I ask for her, and they say, okay, I'll call her. And they buzzed her, and I go over to the elevator, and I'm standing like this at the elevator when she comes down, and she is so embarrassed. And she has a bundle of laundry, and she literally throws it at me. and I go out and I put it in the trunk and I open the doors, you know, and then the limousine had recessed lights under the grill that flashed, and it had a siren. And so as we pulled away from the dorm, I turned the lights on and the siren on, and we're going, you know, I was going probably 5 miles an hour, but you know, several things like that happened over the years, but that was a funny experience because the girls didn't act any different than they did when he was not governor. They lived in a different place, but they loved to go back to the farm as he did, and they often spent the weekends there. And so, anyway, that was those were really interesting times because they were growing and they were dating and they were interested in boys and so we had the guys who were the guides the guards had a little bit of a protective streak about them, and so that was fun. That was fun.
Was it a 40-hour-a-week job, or did you?
Yes, I would work 2 or 3 nights a week. I worked from 11 till 7, and then usually on the weekends I worked from 3 until 11, and so it was a 5-day kind of thing. I think I was off on Mondays and Tuesdays or something. I don't remember exactly when, but it was pretty much a no, it wasn't 40 hours a week, and it got me through law school.
Were you still a student at that time?
Right.
So yes.
Right. And it was great, especially on the nights that you were there from 11 to 7. You could read and do a lot of studying during that period, and still sleep 2 or 3 hours. He always got up like 5 o'clock in the morning, and it was interesting. There was always a stack. That's probably an exaggeration, but there was always a stack of phone calls. And after he got up, he would call down and he'd say, "Have I got any phone calls?" And you'd go through the stack and say, "Mr. So-and-so called, Senator So-and-so called, Representative So-and-so called," go through the various ones, and then he would say, "Okay, well, why don't you do so-and-so first, and so-and-so second, and so-and-so third, and then I've got a meeting at 7 o'clock, and that's probably all I'm going to be able to talk to." And so you would call the person up and tell them that the governor was returning their call, and could they hold, and then you'd buzz him and he would answer the phone and talk, and you'd watch till he hung up, and then when he hung up you'd call the next person. And so in doing that, that was probably the first real interaction from a work perspective that I was involved in.